Alright everyone, Project Veritas released a second video with regards to the Claire McCaskill thing. I think this sinks her chances, honestly, of re-election. I think that that's another Republican seat and that gives them the Senate. At this point, there is a near 100% chance of the Republicans holding the Senate. The odds of them increasing their lead are better than 90%, I'd say. When we look at the Texas polling, when we look at the Florida polling that's narrowed again, it looks like Rick Scott may actually pull it out of his ass. If that happens, I'd say 54 is what the Republicans probably end up with. They gain 3 seats in the Senate. Where's the blue wave? What Claire McCaskill did this time, according to their new reports, and the way she responded to it is really bad. I've got to say, it's been a while since a politician of any party, of any ideology, responded to a scandal in such a terribly inefficient way. She comes out, she totally skirts the question and starts rambling about fraud, and then she attempts to goad her opponent, Hawley himself, who's the Attorney General acting in Missouri, into starting an investigation into Project Veritas that isn't even based in Missouri, based on the concept that infiltrating a campaign is a form of fraud. It's not a form of fraud. It's called muckraking. It's called actual journalism. You know that thing CNN doesn't do? That thing Fox no longer does? That thing that none of the corporate media outlets is willing to delve into because it can be a lot more lucrative to simply take a bribe from some nasty politician than to release the story that actually sort of cracks a big scandal? What McCaskill did this time was apparently she's been taking backdoor money from Planned Parenthood associated groups. Now, disclaimer, and I know that this pisses off actually a majority of my audience. I don't have a problem with Planned Parenthood, and I'm completely pro-choice. I don't care that she's gotten money from Planned Parenthood. What I do care about is twofold. Number one, Planned Parenthood, why is it giving political donations specifically in the first place when it's taxpayer funded in part? That's a little bit of a problem regardless of what ideology they have. And by the way, if they're weighing in on abortion, I don't care. I'm going to agree with them 9/10 of the time. But when they sit there weighing in on like the Kavanaugh issue, what the fuck does that have to do with Planned Parenthood? You're essentially, ostensibly, a medical service. That has nothing to do with it. You in a roundabout way saying, well, Kavanaugh will endanger Roe v. Wade. Prove it. That's not up to you to determine. You've got taxpayer money in your coffers. Fucking shut up about it. That would be number one. Number two, she did not disclose and in fact attempted deliberately not to have known to her constituents the fact that she was taking this money. With the idea that the moderate voters in Missouri, of which there are a lot, it's a swing state technically, but it leans red. It's a bit more religious than the national average. Do you think that her platform, her secret platform of I hate guns and by the way I take Planned Parenthood money? Now, the latter, of course, I don't care about that. The former I would have a huge problem with. That if I were in Missouri, I'd definitely vote for Hawley. I have a problem with the fact that she attempted to delude her voters, delude the people of Missouri into thinking that her platform was something that it isn't. In the last video on McCaskill, I pointed out, virtually all politicians do this. It's a normal practice within politics to simply, you ignore the inconvenient stances that you have. You artificially limit what you talk about. You try to shape the debate itself to benefit you. That's not abnormal. It's greasy. It's dubious and slimy, but they do this all the time. She got caught, though, doing it. When a politician does get caught, you should punish them. When it becomes clear, when it goes from speculating there's a 90% chance they're not telling me the whole truth to there's a 100% chance, that's when you have to vote them out of office. The odds of McCaskill winning were 50-50. I think they're less than 50-50 now. I think the next round of polling will show it. I think that the next round of polling is going to be very, very interesting. We've got to look at 3 things. 3 very, very important markers. Well, actually 4. Number 1 would be Rick Scott in Florida. Is there actual movement in his favor, or is it basically just statistical noise? If it's moving in his favor, that's basically the death knell of the Democrat Senate chances. Number 2 is McCaskill. What effect are these Project Veritas releases going to have? Because I've seen clips from local and state level news from Missouri that are talking about this. And now they're like, well, caveat, she's disclaiming this. She's saying it's fraudulent. I think the average Missouri voter is intelligent enough to simply look and listen to McCaskill herself in her own fucking words. You played the clip. They're going to make that determination. And her response to it was piss poor. It makes her look culpable. It makes the way that she skirts it makes her look guilty. This is what politicians and lawyers do. They won't answer directly. They go off on a self-righteous tangent about fraud or something like McCaskill did. The third one is the is the race in California, which doesn't even have a Republican, with Feinstein and with De Leon. De Leon being a stand-in for generic progressive, social justice warrior-friendly younger Democrat, Feinstein being the old establishment corporatist. We've got to look at that number, because that tells us, at least in blue states, what proportion of the Democrats are pissed off enough to go against what would otherwise be a popular female incumbent. So that's a marker we definitely have to look at. Another one is Trump's approval. We've got to keep a close eye on that because it's inching up again. It's almost at 44. And in the most recent round of polling, there's good reason to believe it might have already hit the magic number of 45. Remember what I've said about that. If it hits 45, there's a 50-50 or better chance the Republicans keep the House. If it's under that, there's a better than 50-50 chance they lose the House. At the moment, if the election were tomorrow, I would expect the Republicans to narrowly lose the House. But if it's above 40, if Trump gets to 46, 47 before Election Day, then I would expect that they win. Also, we've got to look at the Mueller releases shortly after the midterms, because Mueller's office comes out, according to a new report, they're kind of saying, yeah, after the midterms, things have already wound down. Basically, they've already got their findings. The probe is now over. The people you've seen indicted are the only ones that'll be indicted. They're going to have to come out and exonerate Trump. That's my prediction. When that happens, support will skyrocket, but they're not going to release that before the midterms because it would be seen by every liberal in the country as election interference. They would blame Russia. He wants to be cut and dry. He doesn't want to get blamed for the midterm results regardless of what they are. I happen, by the way, to support him in that. Yes, at this point, wait until after the midterms. Even if it was helpful to the Republicans short term, long term it would alienate so many liberals, it'd be a problem. So McCaskill, she's taking Planned Parenthood money. That's fine. That's all. Go ahead. For some reason, it's legal for a taxpayer-funded edifice to give donations. I don't agree with that at all. I think people, by the way, we could solve this problem of Planned Parenthood boogeyman. Let people put a little check mark on a box on their taxes that they don't want any of their money going to it, and let the rest of us absorb the cost. Yes, I'm willing to pay an extra $2-3 fucking dollars a year so that women can choose. Yeah, I'm fine with that. If you're an evangelical or something, you don't want to pay for it, fine. That's fine by me. I don't fucking care. It's your moral beliefs. If you honestly believe that, okay, then you get like a $2 a year tax break or whatever amount it would amount to. Now, but Claire McCaskill fooling her voters, lying about this issue, and hiding the fact that she's taking this money, apparently according to at least one of her staffers or aides or whatever this was, according to at least one person, it's coming through third-party sources in order to obscure the fact that it came from Planned Parenthood. That is a big problem. And trust me, McCaskill would make it an election issue if Hawley had been exposed by a group for having done similar things. She's being self-righteous and pretending, well, no, you don't have a right to know this, basically. Essentially, if you boil down what she really said, it comes out to the Missouri voters don't have a right to know the fact that I actually dislike guns more than I let on. The Missouri voters don't have a right to know where my campaign contributions come from. It's okay if they come through third parties to obscure their original source. That's fine, because the Missouri voters don't deserve, someone who will actually, I guess, represent them properly and fairly. So, if you're in Missouri, you should vote against McCaskill. I mean, Hawley, probably they look at his platform as his own problems. But he hasn't been caught out as deliberately lying to voters on that level. It was funny to see some of the left-wing responses, because they know that this race is extremely important. It's been one of the closest. It's one of those races in which a high-ranking Democrat can get knocked out very easily. It would be interesting if that happens. McCaskill, I've said for a long time, would be that's the big prize during the midterms for Republicans, if they can get rid of McCaskill. At this point, maybe get rid of Elizabeth Warren. No, I'm just kidding. That's not going to happen. That's about all. Peace out.